Amid growing criticism of college rankings, US News and World Report recently released its annual version of the college rankings with an updated formula. So, how did it go? Well, there were some changes. But before I dive into those, if you are new here, welcome. My name is Drew. And on this channel, you will find many related videos concerning current affairs in higher education, as well as some videos that document the student perspective in terms of navigating the college experience. So if you do want to see more content like this regularly, make sure you do hit subscribe. So I did touch on the updated formula in a recent video that I had made, so I won't dive too much into that. But a result of that is that there were a few changes. There was nothing too dramatic. And in some cases, because there was a greater emphasis on social mobility as a factor, there were a few public institutions which rose in the rankings, and there were a few private institutions which fell in the rankings. Now, I need to point out that the social mobility factor, it's not new. It has been around for a few years. It's just that US News has decided to put a greater emphasis on this in terms of a few other variables such as class size and number of faculty with terminal degrees. So reactions were mixed, and understandably so. Some of the institutions which fell in the rankings were not happy, and they were pretty vocal about it. So Vanderbilt University being one of them, who they only fell a handful of spots, but they felt that this formula is deeply flawed. They felt that the factors such as the class size and the number of faculty with terminal degrees was very important in determining these rankings. And then you also had, I think it was Oberlin College, who said that these new rankings are kind of taking away from institutional excellence and what they can provide. And so there have been a mix all over. And I want to take one quick time out and talk about the factor concerning faculty with terminal degrees. That's a tough one. So I say it like this. So if you have a terminal degree, that is essentially a doctorate. So if you're talking about faculty with a terminal degree, those are your PhDs, those are your doctors, those are your tenured professors or your full-time professors. Now, while this may imply that you have very well-educated faculty who are providing quality education at your institution, a lot rides on what that means. And so essentially, depending on their contract, depending on the institution and what the charges are from that institution to the faculty, depending on the landscape, depending on a lot of things, and also the faculty's own experience going through their doctoral program and what their goals are, they are constantly being pulled between conducting research and trying to receive grant funding for their research and teaching. And depending on all of the things that I just mentioned, there's going to be a lean one way or the other. And in many cases, these faculty, and I don't mean this as a generalization, but many faculty will put research as the priority over teaching. And sometimes while they do teach, they are not able to give time and attention to the students in their courses and those student needs. And even more so, they may not be teaching some of the lower division courses that a lot of first-year students are taking. And I think this is critical because this is where you're running into a situation where you are sitting in a lecture hall full of 100 students and it's being taught by a TA. Because these classes in some ways are pivotal. I would say they are pivotal because these are the types of classes where students are thinking, is this degree for me? Do I need to change my major? Is this institution for me? Is college education for me? So I think if you're diluting that classroom experience, you're now kind of creating your own retention risk for a lot of these students. But I have met faculty all over that spectrum. Many have cared fully about their research, and rightfully so, because they've done some great things. And then I've met faculty who care deeply about the students and their success. So I don't mean this as a generalization either way. What I'm trying to say is it really depends. It depends on the institution and a lot of other things that you can't know as a prospective student or a member of the community. So I don't think it's fair to put that into your formula and say that this is a legitimate factor. I think what it is, it's more of like a billboard for you to interpret that, oh, if you have a lot of faculty with terminal degrees, then you are providing a quality education. And maybe you are, but maybe you're not providing access equally to that education, or maybe you're not able to provide that across all majors. So all of that to say, it depends. Now, going back to the rankings, there was a lot of mixed opinion. So you have a lot of these institutions saying you are deteriorating what our excellence it is, what our character is, what our personality is, and this is kind of taking away from our ability to market to prospective students. But at the same time, you have students saying we don't really care that much about the rankings when we're making our decisions. So then it goes back to the institutions of wanting to put that in their marketing materials and also wanting it to be about bragging rights among their peers and with alumni. Now, US News has defended their updated formula, and they're saying the social mobility is more important than a lot of these other things. And so what they want to emphasize is, what is the salary of graduates at an institution, and how much debt are these graduates carrying into the real world after they graduate? And they're saying those things matter right now. Then you have other people, other outside parties that are saying you two are missing the point altogether. What you really need to be doing is assessing the quality of the educational experience that you're providing. And when I step back and I look at this, I tend to side with that view. Because again, it's going back to marketing and bragging rights, and students are saying they don't really care about these rankings. And from what I've seen, I think reputation carries a lot more weight than ranking. Students are going to make decisions based off of what their friends and relatives tell them, what they see on TV, what they read about. And it's not so much of them doing their due diligence within rankings. Now, I think the rankings, I think I've said this before when I've talked about US News rankings, it's a good starting list because you're going to come across institutions you didn't know existed, and I think it's a great starting point to dive into what they have to offer you. But personally, I feel like students right now are looking at, can I get a job after I graduate? How much does it cost to attend? Is it close to home or is it far away from home? What do the residence halls look like? Is the dining hall food good? Can I have fun there? Is the weather nice? These are all things that they're not being captured within rankings. And so I think and again, this is my opinion, I think this underscores the disconnect between what institutions think is important and what the students are actually looking at. Now, granted, I think a quality education is very important to consider, but the students don't understand that they need to look at that. When they're trying to figure out what do they like, what should they major in, what is going to make them employable, and what can those salaries look like, they don't quite make that connection of their end goal to what they should major in and the classes they should take and the faculty that they should be doing research with. And that's our job to bridge that gap. And so it really comes down to, and this is my message to institutions, is that the student needs to see themselves at your institution. I don't think you can say we're ranked number 27 and we were ranked 50 last year, so we're better. The student doesn't care. The student wants to know, do I feel like I belong? Can I get an education? Can I graduate on time? Is it affordable? Can I get a job? Can you give me what I need to become a member of the workforce? So now the challenge is how do you convey that in marketing materials? How do you convey that to prospective students? Because ultimately, we all sound the same. We offer these programs. We offer this research. We offer this prestige. We offer this history of our institution. So how do we set ourselves apart? But at the same time, how are we also serving our community by delivering on what we say we offer to our students? So it's very muddied and it's very hard to sift through, but ultimately, I don't think the rankings really are a measure of superiority, and I don't think US News is trying to do that, but I think it's a list of here are some good institutions that you should consider. And sometimes students don't always have access to those institutions, and it's not to say that if you attend an institution not on that list, that you are not getting a good education. Because I will also say that your education is what you make of it. And it's our job as college employees or institutional employees to make sure that students understand how they can take advantage of the resources and the education that is being offered to them. So those are my thoughts on the recent rankings. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you like this video, let me know by hitting like. And as always, I will catch you in the next one.